Parlays, the most exciting bet in sports betting. They don't hit often, but by adding a bunch of legs and having a large multiplier, when they do hit, what a rush they create. The only problem, statistically, you're probably losing money long term by making parlays, and that's why sportsbooks promote them so much. But in this video, I'm going to teach you how to make winning parlays long term and tips to go along with it. Now, before I get into this video, there's going to be a couple terms you need to know. You're going to first need to know what a parlay is. If you don't know what a parlay is, before watching this video, you're going to want to watch my Sports Betting 101 video where I go over what a parlay is. Now, if you do know what a parlay is, the next term you need to know is what a positive EV bet is. If you don't know what a positive EV bet is, then you need to watch my video on positive EV betting, because that's primarily what building profitable parlays is going to be built on, is that concept of positive EV. So go watch those two videos if you don't know either of those terms. Now, if you do know what those two terms are, then it's time to get into the actual video. So with that, I'm going to go over to OddsJam. It's what I use to make all my bets, including my parlay bets. And as you can see, we are on the positive EV page. Again, why knowing that concept is really important to making winning parlays. So looking at the positive EV page, we can see all these percentages for positive EV. And that is essentially what's going to make our parlay profitable, is by having positive EV bets in our parlay. Now, by having positive EV bets make up our parlay, what it is going to do is it is going to add the EV together and pretty much make a super EV bet. And it gets even more EV by the fact that by adding each additional leg to your parlay, it increases the odds of that parlay. And vice versa. That's why sportsbooks promote parlays so much, is because they actually make more money from a parlay bet than a regular bet. Because if you are a normal person and you aren't using a software such as OddsJam to find positive EV bets, and you're just making regular bets that are negative EV, by adding the negative EV bets together, you're actually making your parlay super negative EV, which is increasing the amount of money per dollar that sportsbooks actually collect. So that's why sportsbooks promote parlays so much, is because most people are actually adding negative bets together, which makes it a super negative EV parlay, and then they're making way more money long term. So to illustrate how adding a bunch of different positive EV bets together into one parlay essentially makes it a super EV bet, I'm going to do an example here. And so I'll go with BetMGM. It's pretty big and it has a lot of soft lines usually. We've already got this popped up, so we'll go and add that. And OddsJam has this nice feature you can go to add to parlay to essentially see how the parlay is going to build. So we'll do that one. We'll do this. This is also positive EV by a bunch. And we'll get this one with Jacoby Brissett. And then by making a 3-leg parlay, so by adding all those right there, then you go over to this button up here, and it's going to show you how your parlay stacks up against other sports books. So as you can see, there's only 2 other books that have those exact same bets as BetMGM. But look at this payout we're getting between BetMGM, Caesars, and Fanduel. Now, if you're someone that only uses Fanduel and you made that exact same parlay, you're only getting paid $47 for it with a $10 bet. And then if you use BetMGM for that same parlay, you're getting $21 additional dollars. So essentially, you have a payout boost on BetMGM compared to these other 2, where you can make 2 additional parlays for the difference in winnings to make more money in the long run. And that is exactly how adding positive EV bets together leads to having a essentially super EV bet. And you can always change this amount too. Let's say that you threw $30 on it. Now you see the payout shift even more. Difference between $141 and $206. So the more and more that you make these parlays over time, that payout difference by adding EV bets together makes a huge difference. And that is exactly why you want to use, again, multiple different books versus just, hey, I'm someone, I only bet on Fanduel or I only bet on DraftKings. This is the power of shopping through different books. And then if you want to clear it out, like let's say you want to remove a leg, you can always do that. Or if you just want to clear the bet altogether, simple as that. So it's an easy, simple demonstration to see how adding EV bets together makes your parlay EV as well. So another thing you'll see promoted a bunch by sportsbooks is going to be these things called same game parlays. Now, just like regular parlays, they can be profitable if you add a bunch of EV bets together to make it a super EV bet. However, just like with regular parlays, if your same game parlay is made up of a bunch of negative EV bets, it's going to be an extra negative EV bet. And another thing that you'll see happen a lot with same game parlays is because there's so little options and everything's kind of intertwined, you're going to see payout shifts. So a lot of times you're not even getting paid the actual true odds for a same game parlay. And that's why these sportsbooks promote it so much, is because this is actually what they make their largest profit margin on, is same game parlays. So if we go back over to the OddsJam page, we can create a same game parlay. So what I like to do, I like to go over to sports because it can be hard to create a whole one just on this positive EV page. So we'll go over to football here. And then what I always like to do, just as an example, I'll go over to passing yards. And we can see if there's anything positive EV from any of these books. There is nothing. So we'll go over to receiving yards. And okay, so we'll see. Okay, so we can do Deebo Samuel. His over yards is slightly better on Fanduel. So what we can do is we'll go over to same game parlay. We'll go into receiving yards. Deebo Samuel over 54.5. And a thing that you can do to add to your positive EV for a same game parlay bet is you can do a thing called correlation. So Deebo Samuel, if he goes over his receiving yards at 54.5 receiving yards, that means that there's a decent chance that the quarterback also goes over the yards passing. So before I go and make that bet, we're going to add that to the parlay. And then we'll go on up to passing yards. So there's a decent chance that Jaden Daniels goes over his passing yards. Now, as you can see on here, is not positive EV. Now this one for under would be slightly positive EV, but it's essentially the same as the rest of the market. So we'll just go for his over. So if we go to passing yards, Jaden Daniels over. Oh, that's an even better one. We can go over his 227. So what we'll actually do is we'll remove that and we will add this, which is essentially at the market. But again, you had that positive correlation of his receiver is going over his yards for what we're predicting. So there's a decent chance that he throws over his yards. Now, sportsbooks aren't stupid and they know about correlation as well. So what they do is they add a payout shift. So you can see that our payout on Fanduel is going to be 167. But if we go over to OddsJam, you can see without a payout shift, the true odds on Fanduel should be at plus 258. So they're giving you a payout shift. And then to finish out our same game parlay with positive correlation, because we picked the Commander's receiver to go over his yards and their quarterback to go over their yards, usually the losing team in an NFL game passes more. So because of that, we're essentially picking that they're going to be losing and that their opponent, the Seahawks, are going to be winning. So winning team usually runs the ball more so that they can run the clock out. So we'll go over to rushing yards to finish this out. And we'll look for the Seahawks running back. We have Kenneth Walker. Okay, over 57.5 rushing yards. That's actually really good. Not only is it slightly EV to the rest of the market, minus 137, minus 114, but it also fits with our narrative of having a positive correlation. So we'll go with that, plus 402, and we'll go and add that. So here it should be at plus 578 without any payout shifts. But Fanduel is giving us a payout shift. So what I will do is I will pretty much only make one of these same game parlay bets because of the payout shift if I have a boost offered by them. So that's going to make it at 522, which is still less than if there was no payout shift at all. And you can see the other books don't really have a comparable for all the different legs, because if we go to here, a lot of them offer it at slightly different lines for the NFL, just because there is so many variations in their calculations. So those are a couple of things that you can do to make your same game parlay bet make money in the long term. It's harder to make it through positive EV bets because that sportsbook for everything that you're using might not be positive EV for every single stat category. So a lot of times what you have to do is try to get around it with correlation. Again, having these two together, it wouldn't make sense to have the quarterback go over his yards and then have the receiver go under his yards, but it does make sense to have the receiver go over his yards and the quarterback go over his yards. So different things like that. And again, that's also why when I make these same game parlays, I pretty much only make them when they offer a profit boost, because without the profit boost, they're pretty much super negative EV unless you're able to get it where every single stat category that you're using for that same game parlay is a positive EV bet. If you don't know too much about each of the different sports and what stats may correlate within those sports, on screen I'm going to put some different correlating stats for each of the major sports in America just to get you started. Feel free to pause this if you need to. And there's a lot more different stats within each of these sports that actually correlate with each other, but this is just a good one to begin with to help you make your same game parlays. So when you've created a parlay and a couple of the legs have hit or are close to hitting, what you'll see pop up usually on sportsbooks is going to be a cash out option. And unless you've made one of those bets where the final leg to hit is going to win you a life-changing amount of money, then you don't want to hit that cash out option. And if you did make one of those parlays that makes you a life-changing amount of money, there's other options you have such as hedging it, but that's a topic for another video. However, most of us aren't making parlays that are going to win us a life-changing amount of money. It'll instead just be for a decent amount of money, like for this one, where I'm betting $15 to win $88.50. But you'll see this cash out is going to be for less than half of that. So that's why you don't want to ever use the cash out option, because the cash out option is never going to be the true value that the parlay is worth at that moment. As you can see here, I've made a 5-leg parlay. The only thing left to hit is if the Chargers win. This is not a fair value for the Chargers winning the game and only being one leg away from winning this bet. So you never want to hit that cash out button, and the reason why is because it is negative EV. If you continue to always hit the cash out option when you are close to winning a parlay, you are making losing parlays. So when you've made a parlay with every single leg being positive EV, or you used a boost such as I did in this case to make a positive EV parlay, you don't want to hit that cash out option. You just want to let it ride, because in the long run, mathematically, that's going to make you money. And so with that, that's how I've been able to be profitable long term with my parlay bets, and how you can be profitable with your parlay bets as well. And again, if you use the link in the description, it's going to give you access to a week-long free trial of OddsJam. And on top of that, if you decide to keep using it after that week-long free trial, it's also going to give you 50% off your first month. And what you'll see is that price for the first month is going to be $250. And this price for some people initially turns them off. What I always tell people is take advantage of the week-long free trial. You should easily be able to make that $250 in the first week. So use that week-long free trial to make the money that's going to pay for your month's subscription. And if for some reason you're unable to make that $250 in your first week during that week-long free trial and you decide it's not worth it for you, that's okay. You don't have to sign up for that month-long subscription afterwards. So don't be turned away by this price that shows up. Take advantage of the week-long free trial. There's no harm in it. And from that week-long free trial, evaluate if it's worth your money or not. And in addition to taking advantage of the sportsbooks through parlays, I'll also have a bunch of other videos on my YouTube channel showing you how you can make additional money from the sportsbooks. And now that you have these tools and tips about how to make money from parlays, go out there and take that money from the sportsbooks.